Hello, everyone. This is Erin. Welcome back. So, I'm continuing my talks about somatic therapies. And at this point in the series, I want to teach you how doing that foundational work of getting more in touch with the subtle sensations in your body can translate into the bigger picture of spirituality. So, a practice that I do often is called Ishta Devita. And it's where you have a certain concept or perhaps a deity, an idea of God, or it could even be a sort of upgraded version of you, tapping into your higher self, if you will, and embodying those characteristics. So, um, when we're able to do that, we're able to move our frequency in a big way by reigning the power of the mind and being able to tap into subtle sensations that we have within. When we can do this and we can change the trajectory of where our life is going if we're not satisfied with the results and tap into this sort of truth consciousness that we have within us and be able to not only like ride the wave of gifts and surprises that we have within us, but be able to, plot out the itinerary at least a little bit as far as where we're going. So, laying the foundational groundwork of being able to feel your feelings, being able to observe sensations within you without judgment and with compassion allows us to be able to kind of navigate and ride those waves because when we resist them, they persist, as Eckhart Tolle would say. But when we're able to compassionately accept what is true for us and what is bright and alive inside of us at any given moment, then we allow those energies to flow through us. And what happens is we digest them, they transmute, and we get to see the depth and substance underneath all these expressions. And so in yoga theory, they talk about chitta vrittis. Chitta vrittis are the thoughts, but also the emotional byproduct of the mind kind of fleeting around to different places, certainly. But what I'm talking about is when we have a sort of conscious co parenting or co partnership with the technology of the mind and with knowing the predictability as far as we can with these tools. As far as when I choose this thought, we're going to have this vibration. And so being in the driver's seat for that certainly can help us to form a life that we're really in love with. So that's part of the work. The other part of the work is being able to, sort of like in martial arts, you have to choose your battles. What am I going to like fight and what am I going to kind of use that force against itself and kind of, like in judo, it's like you take somebody else's force, you kind of move with the natural essence of things, and then, it becomes a lot easier. So, in that same regard, being able to hold space for whatever is true for us and get to know this sort of different experience of ourselves. So, I tell the story often that there was this sage who would transform into different forms of animals and was making love to his lover all the time. And they would just change into different animals and different forms, so that they could experience each other in different ways because they loved each other so much. They would want to know all the different frequencies, vibrations, and versions that they could possibly be to just have this experience. And so part of our work as spiritual beings on this path is to embrace those different aspects of ourselves. As a painter would use different paint and want to convey different concepts, ideas, and images in their vision and their unique expression. And so part of the work in spirituality is to, yes, guide ourselves with conscious awareness, choose a path, um, you know, co-conspire as far as, universal energy, but also our own vision of things and work towards it, like not skipping over the hard work. I think that maybe that's why people like me as a coach, because I have like one foot in either realm. We can go into this kind of like 5D concept, but then also like, okay, well, you're here on this planet, you need to like pay bills and like be able to speak to people in a, somewhat grounded way. So they're not like, okay, space cadet, whatever. So that's somewhere in between, somewhere in between. There is a great power and freedom that comes from accepting ourselves as we are. I'll give a personal example. So, me as an anxious person, which is my sort of like, my true nature is one of joy, love, and all this, certainly. But I have like default patterning to where I would go into anxiety and be like, oh, and disassociate and not necessarily. Power off. Point is going to be, an anxious experience. And so my pattern would be to kind of like, leave myself and then want to leave whatever situation I was in. So maybe you can relate. This might express through you as fight or flight. So a couple of years ago, I recognized that underneath that anxiety was a need. It was a need for me to ground. So like I'm big into somatic therapies now. It makes sense because I used to disassociate from my body. I did it in many different ways. I did it with drugs. I did it with experiences with other people. I did it with just like kind of wanting to escape my life. And I found different ways to facilitate that. And so now, even if I'm having a good experience, maybe you can relate, sometimes like, these old patterns come up and you just have a spike of anxiety or sadness or shame or something. And so then the challenge is to how can I be present with that in the moment and still engage with life, right? So we practice this behind closed doors, but then at some point we have to come out from our cave and deal with people and deal with ourselves dealing with people. And so something that I do is like rub my legs, rub my arms. I put some pressure in my body and I feel my own loving hands on my body as a reminder that I'm going to choose to stay. I'm going to breathe. It's not as scary as I once thought it was. That's old patterning. And just try to breathe. And sometimes I'll even announce it to my friends. Like my friend Sarah last night, I was like, is it okay if I pet you to soothe myself? Which sounds funny. And she's like, oh my gosh, yes. Do you want to pet my hair? Like, it's like, okay, you get the benefit. And I do too. So, being open with and knowing that like nobody's perfect and that I'm a coach. I've been doing this for 10 years. Of course I get spikes of anxiety. Of course I get sad. Of course I feel shame sometimes. And I think that, betting on that these emotions will happen is you're probably going to lose those bets at some point. Even if you're insulating yourself, they will find you. But rather changing your relationship with them, which is part of what I teach. And I teach it through modeling. Like I walk the walk. I show you, okay, rather than just a template or a theory or a concept, how can I show you what that looks like in real time with the mistakes, with the turbulence, with everything, and kind of walk you through that. And so you can see in real time what that looks like in a person and the compassion that has to happen to allow space for those things to unfold, what that looks like, what that feels like. And just like if you're in a share circle and other people are being vulnerable, sharing their stories, like, oh my gosh, I resonate with that. Oh my gosh, like I can, that helps me to touch that space within me. And so somatic therapies are allowing us to tap into these subtle sensations. And once we get very skilled at that, then we can take the skill set and we can apply it to bigger concepts in our life. Like, how do I interact in the world like this? How do I soothe myself? How do I not remove myself from the world, but stay in it and learn how to cope in a healthy way? So I hope that you enjoyed this series of somatic therapies and as much as I enjoyed recording it. Thank you so much. A couple of updates. One, we have a trip to India that's coming up. We have 4 spaces left, standard room. If you're interested, reach out to me, Erin at erincoach.com.
And if you're interested in going to Japan with me in November of next year, 2025, reach out to me, Erin at erincoach.com. We're going to be home based in Osaka. We're going to be exploring Kyoto, Nara, Hiroshima, and quite a few places in between. So if you're interested in that, it's a 12-day trip from November 3rd to the 14th. Shinkansen Pass is included in tuition. All right, thank you so much. Namaste.